Hi.
Hello. Is my sound good? I'm playing around with settings here. I'm kind of dealing with the messed up system.
It's okay. Sorry about my English. I'm not, I don't know how to speak a good English, but I'm going to do my best. Glad to meet you, Aug. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Sorry our
Uh,
camera's so dark.
no, okay. Um, oh, well, I translated a lot of your posts here in Brazil. And now I don't I started to talk to speak in the channels. They are increasing their interest about this kind of the way you the way you speak about these questions, okay? And not you. I have a lot of authors and uh, material in my site, and people are is reading. It's very new here in Brazil. Do you understand what I?
Yeah, fine. You're fine.
Okay, but we the way people talk about ufology and ETs here is very. It's not. It's very primer. How can I say? It's so like childs. They are waiting for ETs. They are talking about this, and it's all we have here. So when I started to speak about this, it became an event. They are very interested, and they are interested in you because I talk a lot about you, but they are starting. They are in the beginning of the comprehension. I think people is very curious about you, about your story, because it's very extraordinary for us here. Brazil, we didn't know nothing about this, nothing. It's very new for us, and I think they are going to be curious. They are going to ask you, and of course, they are very interested in the what is to come, what is to happen to Earth, and what is going to the points of views about this. I don't understand. I still don't understand what we are going to go through. I don't understand. Okay, and I think these are going to be the points, the issues they are going to be interested, and uh, we will have we will have people that know how to speak a good English to talk with you, okay? Not me. I'm going to watch.
You do a good enough job. You do fine.
No, but I have never. I don't know, but we have someone who lives here there in the United States, in Florescer da Consciência, the first channel. And now I was asked to invite you by Remix. It's another radio, and we will have a friend here of Brazil that lived in England for a long time, 20 years. So it's going to be very comfortable to talk with them.
I'm comfortable now, but I understand.
Okay, and I don't know. You use Hangouts without problem.
Yeah, but Hangouts, out of all the things that we have used, Hangouts gives us the most problems. So for the, what was it? It's failed to record sometimes, so I'll make sure to have a backup, and I'll make sure there, at least something will be recorded.
Because we just use Hangout. The background. I don't know the schedule for Remix. I still don't know. I asked, but they haven't answered me, and it's going to be. I have to give you a schedule soon.
All right. Yeah, and the next one within a week, or the first one, that's fine. So I guess I'm ready. I get a little distracted sometimes. I was actually pretty distracted all day. I was distracted for about 3 or 4 days. There was a friend of mine who is related to the same background that the experience is, and he's not as well adjusted. He's not as happy with what has happened. And so he began to blame me and call me out. And so we got into an argument on one of these pages, and I normally don't invest any time into that. I don't give any energy to that. I'll just let people say what they will, and I'll add my piece, like I always tell people, and I go my other way. I wrote probably almost maybe 20 pages worth of back and forth with various individuals, because the way that group works, and a lot of groups will work, is that if one person starts to say, well, this guy's whatever, everybody starts to jump in and throw their, and they don't even know. They've never even seen me before or anything like that. It's usually parents and stuff like that. And I've been very distracted, and eventually earlier today, I dropped the phone in the bathroom and cracked the screen, and I'm normally good with everything electronics. I'm careful with everything. Usually that doesn't happen, and I use this very, very often, as you can see with the videos. And the screen comes out blurry when recording from the way I like to do it, where I can see myself, and it feels like I'm talking to another person. And so I've been in a bad mood for a good 3 or 4 days, and then the last 3 or 4 hours, like, terrible, because it's a few $100s to replace that. And you can get the $20 screen repair, but often they'll crack fairly easily. Basically, I've dropped this probably 30 times. I just said I'm usually good at not breaking stuff, but I dropped it, and there's a way to catch it and toss it when you drop it, so it kind of just slides along across the floor. And this is one of the times where I didn't do anything to catch it or stop it, and I could hear it when it landed right there. It was like a symphony of disaster. But just speaking with you, it feels like everything is better. Everything's gone away. There's good energy, and I actually want to make a video about this next, which I have the ideas already for it, because there's like a message of, a lot of times with people in these groups, they'll be sent messages through something happening, through anything happening, a messenger, a message, event, even the weather. And that's how it happens with spirit a lot. It's all connected. And so I wanted to talk about that. And then the main thing is, all day yesterday and possibly before, I was listening to the song Don't Worry, Be Happy, and which is exemplified perfectly in what we all need to do, I guess. And it's, talking to you, this is the stuff I like to do, connecting with people, connecting with real people, not like other people aren't real, but just not talking to a phone or stuff like that. And there's such a good vibration that it doesn't matter. The problems that we have that get in between people connecting, this is part of what I was going to say, is that it gives you a chance to say, well, don't worry, be happy, and turn it around, and you can, whatever was being blocked, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to take a delay or the loss or whatever it is, and I'm going to try as hard as I were before, even more, to do what I wanted to do, even if I have to take a different route to get there. But as well, it shows us what we really benefit from, what we really enjoy is not the devices and the money and the things that we have. It's that those things often connect us to people we want to experience and be with, and situations we want to be in that are not accessible directly, because we're in this type of weird world where we can't walk all over the place and fly all over the place or drive all over the place, because everything costs so much and is controlled so much. And so it's a good lesson and a good, it always happens. And it also ties into a previous video, which I haven't released yet, on consciousness, and how when groups come together, they form more powerful unions, and that's where these secret societies, these bloodlines, families get their power by all focusing on the same idea in the same time every night at a specific hour. Then the moon's over there and they do it the same way and they charge energy into what they want. And so that, and then there's methods of doing that, and then everybody is in different ideas and different groups, and one person of a certain color or culture or family or class, we're not supposed to talk, and we're not supposed to like be cool with each other, and so it's obviously just a way to control people. But the idea is, that's the last video. I want to do this video, and then the video I recorded some of, which is the next video, it's all connected, is that what's going on in this realm is a challenge for a system, basically kind of like a beast or a monster of a mind that is going to tell people, it's going to put events in people's lives and spiritually give them the opportunity to either say, I'm going to allow myself to be controlled by somebody else or some other events in my life, things that happen to me, or I'm going to be happy anyway, I'm not going to worry about those things, and I'm going to overcome. And that's free will, and the other way is automation and loss of free will, and ultimately these cloning and cyborgs and spiritual control systems. And there's two different things happening here, and it's very strange, but the control system is not always about what we do, but it's also about how we feel when something happens to us, and then where we go from there. And in that sense, if we do something wrong or bad and we lash out, well, you still have a chance to say, well, I realize this now, I feel okay, I can overcome that, and that's the same as never doing wrong in the first place, because it's the feeling that counts, and when we overcome that through feeling and feeling happy and choosing that, that's free will, and that is required by spirit, and a computer can't do that. It can't come alive and say, okay, I love you, I'll do it this way. It just does what's programmed, and so when we do that, we're interacting on a spiritual level. And this whole thing is just a big continuous lesson to remind me of these things. And as well, getting in that group, and arguing, putting me in that low level, it introduced the error, which provided me an opportunity to turn around and climb back up to where I was before. It's very strange how everything works, but it always works out like that. And all we have to do is continue to look and grow and accept, and not let other things control us or other people. So I just wanted to say that. Sorry for turning this into a little show.
Very good to hear, because sometimes I talk kids in bad things, or it's very scary.
Your audio is messing up now.
I feel fear and yes, I talk with Felicia. Felicia is very positive, she talks a lot about, we have to enjoy life, we have to be happy, we have to enjoy people, each other. And sometimes we forget, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean, and it will be very good for people here to hear about this, because we are thinking about doomsday, the end of the days, and all the things that are happening around the world. Here in Brazil, it's heavy for us. And Felicia says that no, nothing of this is real, but I don't know how to deal with. I still don't know how to deal with this kind of illusion. I don't know.
That's where it comes into play, or into a variation. For some people who have very, very intense problems, and they can't just sit back and sing about it for a moment and feel better. And some people their job might be to look at problems and figure out how to solve them, and they can't just say, oh well, just smile and it'll go away. And so it's still truthful, but there are different ways that principle is going to be reached in other people's lives. And in other words, there's another aspect that can be interpreted or learned through, which is that even when there are unhappy events, kind of like what I described, or when your job is to fight crime or something like that, that there is a small sliver of something good there, a little bit of something good, and as well, you can focus on that, but it's not to say that trick yourself and say what's bad is good anyway and is happy, and just like blind yourself to the raw feeling, which oftentimes is very stressful. But there's basically, when it goes away from being able to just laugh it off, there's an aspect of control over ourselves that is developed by learning how to navigate that situation and actually take control rather than just having a response or reaction through emotion, whether that is feeling a certain way and being sad or simply laughing it off. That there's an intellectual method of building, kind of like with Lego blocks, of maybe not fixing the situation, but of mending what it means to the individual. And when that comes about, when that is achieved, usually the problem is not as bad. And you can always say there's something worse. And then, but that variance is when, well, what about that guy that says whatever you say is worse for that could be? What about the guy or the girl that's having that? What do they say? And does it keep going? And there's always an interplay, but eventually it's a balance between just being positive and being smart enough to know not to trick yourself, but to how to take control and what can be done, and the difference between what can be done and what can't be done. And if there's nothing that can be done, then you can't worry about it because it won't change anything. If there is something that can be done, then you can't just sit back and laugh it off because the problem's going to come back over and over again. So it's a continual learning experience, and that is the basic interplay, whereas people will either say just be happy regardless. You know, the plane's crashing, we'll just laugh. It's not going to help. Unless, again, there's nothing that could be done, which in that case, but say you could take control of the plane and guide it, and then you don't have to just laugh it off. You can be very intensely, scared and crash land and save everybody or save yourself. Well, that's another outcome, and that's another reality that we have access to in probably the majority of the situations. Because even the ones where something happens to the body and doctors tell us one thing, apparently a lot of the time it's not like that, and you can find other options, and they don't like to tell people that. And with finance and things like that, it's very difficult, but there's often another way, and usually it has to do with the mind and mentality. And this goes into a whole bunch of other stuff about basically that there is technology that could fix everything, but if that happened, we wouldn't learn how to overcome that mental aspect. And it's kind of like using a GPS, and it tells you with the voice to turn left or turn right. And some people drive every day, and the GPS breaks, and they don't know how to get there anymore because they've been using it. And I do this sometimes with Google searching when I forget a fact or a word definition, and I search it instantly. But if you sit there and go, no, I need to make my brain work and get stronger, which is how it works, and you fight for the memories, you'll go, oh, this is what it means, and these memories come back, and that natural process is stressful, but it makes a person smarter and stronger. And so there's that interplay. The interplay of it's basically about free will, whether we're going to use our free will to shape the situation and shape our role, or whether it's going to shape us and turn us into a product of reality.
Okay. And Aug, what's going to happen with the planet, with Earth? What is going to happen with us, everything?
What is going to happen with the Earth?
In your point of view?
A lot of things. The most easy way to describe this is that, just like I described how everyone has this basic option, a duality between one and another of free will or automation, where we don't have free will and we're dominated by events, feelings basically, or whether we choose how we're going to feel and take control from a spiritual aspect beyond brain chemicals and beyond objects of what we physically do, but how we feel spiritually. And so there's an interplay in a person's life that's a spectrum of how that's going to play out and the options that they have. every person has that interplay of at least two. Then you have a variety of situations where there are interplays of where and how that's going to be experienced in a variety of tests or problems or however that's going to be experienced in any given person's experience or life. And so the strange thing is that in that sense, the easiest way to describe it is that every possible opportunity, every possible outcome will be achieved and explored in what people describe as the shift of consciousness or the event or the shift of the ages or the unveiling or the apocalypse or whatever people want to call it. And it's that the possibilities in a person's conscious mind of various realities that we're connected to all have to come together back to one, which is what it was in the beginning before this event happened that splayed time out into multiple realities that are out of sync with each other. So we're kind of not communicating with our other selves. And the way back to that is that all the possibilities, it's like you have the five colors or a color wheel, and you have the basic colors. You can mix each one and make thousands to millions of colors, depending on if you start mixing the mixes in between them. So the realities are like that, and there's apparently 9 separate realities, and our consciousness exists separately in each of them, or at least to a certain degree for the amount of the population. And in order to recognize ourselves as the one or the original that all of those came from and will have to combine back to, we have to examine the possibilities between all of them. And it's not as easy as you think. It's not as if a day will replay and everything will be different in that day that replays and it will replay 1,000 million times, but it's that the information that's combined in those different possible experiences that would have that opportunity of shaping our consciousness and giving us the chance to step up, experiences that are that powerful that would shift every event that you could imagine, the most powerful of those experiences will happen. For those who are geared towards low consciousness, they're going to attract very intense, stressful, and possibly violent types of experiences, kind of like animals. And those types of people are here in largely the cities and the largely populated areas. And if a disruption occurs in what we consider to be normal now, people do not know how to feed themselves and take care of themselves. And it's a massive billion-dollar infrastructure all over the world that pumps food, oil, gasoline, water into people and pumps poop and pee and dead bodies and medicine and all this stuff in and out. If that is disrupted, we have basically a time bomb. So that's the beginning, the bottom of the pyramid, you could say, and then that will go all the way up to the top where you have the highest amount of change, where there are people who are basically becoming eternalized consciousness, and they gain, right now there's the body and the mind, and we're primarily body for the most of humanity. It's mainly bodies that are doing things. If your mind is offset and in a problem, well, you feel very disrupted. But if your body gets, kind of cut in half or something, well, it's a big problem. It's a bigger problem than if you have a bad day. The shift is when there's more mind than there is body. And at that point, people can merge into different realities by using their thoughts, by using their mind, instead of having to be constrained or restricted to just one reality that we can consciously see, because we're already across those multiple realities. We just can't consciously see them because we're stuck to just one body consciousness, which is the ego. In that sense, though, say there was a problem and somebody has awakened this power that is in the DNA, that is in their mind, that is natural to the human, but is asleep right now, they could change the events of that problem by being happy. But by being happy and choosing, it could literally make a wall fall down. It could make what they need in that exact moment appear before them. And this is how it was in earlier times, and they would call it miracles. Another way of describing it is a 5-dimensional overlay where what we don't have access to in a direct timeline, meaning the fruit on the tree is going to grow and it's going to fall out and we can eat it. That's in our timeline. Well, what if right now I want a field of fruit and watermelons? Well, that would be a miracle because they're not planted here yet. But if you had access to a creationary power that could merge this timeline and world to one that we don't think exists yet, that is off in hyperspace, then you could bring that here. And the miracles is what that's called because our spirit originates, our true feeling originates from beyond all of time, higher than the 5th dimension, where all the possibilities are as one. And our body and our ego, that's what's separated out here in the individual timelines that they come from the all time, but as we are now, it's like you come from one and then they splay out and then they come back. Right now we're in the splayed out part, so there's a big gap between all these possibilities. If you need a big amount of change or food or whatever it is, money or power, all those things are described as power, there's a universe between the other ones where that might be kept up in a different reality. So we have to build it here and then wait for it to come through. The realities scrunch back together, and the likelihood of having the power to pull a possibility that didn't seem possible before increases and increases. And what people don't know is that if our minds are all linked together, it increases not like this, but it goes like this. And anything that we can imagine, we can attain if we are all connected. And so all that's going to happen is people begin to connect and unify and create similarly together, but that also means those who are not connected are going to have these disturbances that we see now that are hidden, that these people don't know how to treat themselves and behave, and it's basically hidden behind a veneer of society and an illusion. The illusion is going to be cracked, and we're going to see how many people really don't know how to behave and so on and so forth. But in that, just like I described with the problem in my life and having the chance to overcome it, that's where those who have that power to know and to choose and to have that spiritual power, it will automatically begin to shine out. And that's all that's been ever happening. But the wars and the lack of resources, which is an illusion because it's based upon money, which says that you have to work harder for a corporation who sits back and takes in all the money, which is illogical. It doesn't make sense. It's just out of greed. And so we could already have abundance, but we've been in this scarcity system, and because of that, people are held back. And so it's both the animal people being held back as well as the spiritual people that can live in a land of abundance just because they want to. And in that sense, those who are already like that, they're not sad because there's wars and the illusion of scarcity. They're sad, but they're not as low as the people who don't have the belief that these things are possible. And so to wrap it up, the impossible becomes possible. The hidden knowledge about how reality actually works and how our souls exist and how our spirit is the highest form of all of this is made visible and knowable, and the masses, all the people who are sleeping, begin to wake up and know their true power. But there are games that are played that test people throughout all of this, and so I think it won't be as easy as like pulling up the covers and jumping out of bed. It's going to be, they're going to fight to stay asleep, and people are going to, in power, fight to make those people stay asleep. And then we have this advanced technology of mind control system, what people call AI, advanced or artificial intelligence. And through waves that come out of the technology, this is another hidden aspect of how things work from the computer and the internet. Consciousness is a natural internet all across the planet or the plane, however you want to look at it. And so if you get a group together and you transfer intention, what you seek with a pure heart, meaning your spirit is connected to you, and you put that in the field, the mind, the spirit of the plane, then that's what comes out. And whoever wants the most or whoever puts most energy into that changes the reality. And it's a secret because they've been using technology like media and even these cell phone towers to beam out information and control reality for the whole plane, to make timelines, to make ancient civilizations to make big objects, pyramids, underwater walls, and in Antarctica, the pyramids and all these things disappear from time. And now they're coming back and they're reappearing. And so it's a breakdown of that technology, but as well it's going to fight and fight and fight until basically everything that it can get, it will get from the people. And so it's going to be basically a type of, I don't want to say end time scenario, but it's not going to be as easy as we would want it to be, because a lot of people are going to hold on to their illusions, and they're going to hold on to helplessness and being dominated, because in a way some people are afraid of free will and self-responsibility and accountability, although that's not important because everybody can be forgiven. And a lot of the wars and the crimes is not really, we didn't do that. What people do in their own lives, if a person steals or murders somebody because they felt a certain way, that's their problem, their accountability. But we didn't make the system get ruled by billionaires who start wars and steal all the goods for themselves and starve children. We didn't do that. So it's an interplay of all these things and a kind of magical combination of the realm unveiling, so that we see realities that we did not know were here the whole time. And people's inner darkness coming to the light, and them having to deal with that and heal with that and come to the truth of that. And the people who you can call adepts or spiritual adepts or masters, but that's not a good term. It's used in corrupted secret societies, showing themselves again, and it's like a return of the spiritual people, the spiritual vibe, and there are powers there. There are powers of telepathy and the ability to do things that people have forgotten about, that were commonplace before. It was common.
Good. And what is the awakening of our DNA? How going to, when I know that I am awakened, DNA awake, what am I supposed to feel when it's awakened?
This is another kind of open-ended one, although there's ways to describe. So the basic way is you can look at your DNA is a specific harmonic energy vibration of your entire body, all into one unique signature, one unique name, if you will, of a frequency that matches who you are in a larger sense. And by a larger sense, this is basically an interdimensional or an extra-dimensional meaning. And so you could look at and these terms get used all over, and I don't like to use these terms because there's so many people saying dimensions this and astral that. But in the projects, they described that, no, those are the resistance. Those are the people lying to make it sound dumb. It's actually called interdimensional and extra-dimensional and multidimensional. That's what our scientists call it. That's what it really is. And so, because there's so many people that just, it's treated like a type of New Age concept, and it's made to look bad to talk about these things. It's basically not scientific, but it's technically scientific. That's what they told me. And so the idea of interdimensional, extra-dimensional, or other dimensional is that in the universe, there are more than one plane of what you would call like a script or a tape recording of events. And those different scripts or timelines are parallel realities. So there is a finite number, but still virtually a very very high number of variants of different realities where time occurs differently. And so the point is that your DNA is an interdimensional substance. It's not an object, it's a frequency, because the DNA of you here is connected right now to the DNA of you in a different timeline. It's the same DNA, different memories, different physical body, different events in a slightly different order, but the same learning experience, same soul. The soul is what connects it, and that's your DNA. And so the DNA is a substance, and that's connected to that. So when we have a limited DNA access, which is basically amount of light information that transfers through the DNA, which you could look at it that the DNA will either be clean or it will be distorted. And it gets distorted by having the genetics of others, often through sexual acts that are not supposed to be based upon the spirit. And your spirit will always tell you, because it's always in your heart, what's right and what's wrong for you in a moral compass, a spiritual compass. And that is a problem. It's from the food that we eat, of specific animals that people are not supposed to eat, and even drugs can do this. I was informed that certain dark faction groups design drugs that wipes people's minds and degrades their souls, and it makes their souls susceptible to possession. That's what happens with a lot of these groups in these times. And so basically mental abuse of not listening to the spirit, it shuts down information coming through what you can call your DNA, so that you have a less light transference. And the light transference is simply like a river flowing through time, through multiple parallel realities, where you are connected with the you that's in the other reality. And the person who is connected in all realities is said to have Christed consciousness, because their power behind what they feel and how awake they are and aware to what's happening is magnitudes of orders, just like that line that goes like that, more than person who's just in one reality, where you can see people who commit spiritual crime and they don't listen to how they feel, and they are dishonest to themselves and to others. They're not as awake. And you know this because if something strongly influences them and gives them the ability to feel and connect with the love of themselves and the love for others, they won't feel it. It will be like nobody's there. And the people who do this to the maximum, who basically sacrifice and murder and things like that, they have no feeling. It's like an animal or a robot. And it's even meant to be that way because it's very hard to do what they do if they have feeling. They don't treat it like a game. They say, if you're going to be what we are, you kick feeling out. You don't have feeling. And the problem is that people who either make a mistake and try to be that way and they have feeling, or they lie and they say, okay, and they go along and they still have feeling, it causes the body to die. It's so dark what they do that it literally, the body says, no, I can't do this, and the soul leaves this plane and doesn't come back. But that means everybody that is in their group are the strongest, darkest people. They're lords of darkness in the universe. They're literally the dark lords of the universe, which means they can go through anything. But as well, not the light, but the people who are truly aware, they can go through just as much and more, but they won't do it in an egotistical way to prove themselves and give to themselves. So it means they have a person who's connected to all realities, has that power and more, but they're not going to crash a plane or take over a bank and become a millionaire. They're just going to sit and wait and try and teach people and give them the same help, because that's the best thing to do. It's like in Western psychology when they say, when you have the best mind and you fulfilled all of your needs and you're no longer sad and you're no longer confused and you know your dreams and yourself and your unconscious shadow and it's all known. The only thing that person does, they don't take a break. They don't, maybe go back down and cause problems. They find other people and try to give that to them. That's the mark of psychological fulfillment, which is just a way of hinting at actual spiritual fulfillment, but they don't call it that in the West. And so the idea is that power of multidimensional reality, where you know versions of yourself that have access to possibilities that have not occurred here, and the knowledge and the experience of that, which is basically like experiencing of being more than one person, or living for a very long time, or feeling and having the feeling and the compassion of living and feeling what a person feels when they live multiple times over. That's from the DNA being connected, being clarified. And the way it works with one individual person that connects the multiples is that your mind, your body, and your heart has to be in harmony. And when your heart feels something and you do the opposite, there's less harmony. It's like a saxophone and a trumpet, and one's going one way and one's going the other way, and it doesn't sound good. When you have harmony, it's like a tuning fork and a tuning fork, and they create together the same interaction, a meshing, a single oneness, a frequency. That's a harmonization effect. And when you're doing that, all your body parts, your organs, help to create a strong one harmonization, and all the memories that exist in time, that are like stamped into time, mesh with each other, because that person is not going day to day based upon emotions or instinct and desire based upon the body, but it's on something higher that doesn't change day to day but stays the same throughout all of time. And so when you have that oneness of all of time, you're connecting with the higher self, which the higher self is actually the wholeness that's connected and created by all the individual versions of you across multiple realities. And this, again, is a science, and it's related to the magnetic field of the Earth, around Earth, and these energies that are basically our memories and other realities are up there in the field, what they call the heavens. And there's an underworld where there are realities down there. And that works just because if you get far enough away out of the field of our brainwaves, where you have everyone between 6 and 15 feet. There's not many more people, or 4 and 15 feet. There's not many more people who are taller or shorter than that. And there are, 3 and 2 feet people, but that's the general idea. So within that area around the Earth, there's a thick brainwave net of feeling and power. So when you go beyond that and you're outside of it, you begin to go into a different reality. They don't tell people, but that's how space actually works. You go into different realities by leaving the plane of the Earth, and it's human reality down here. And so the point is, in the heavens, all the other versions of what can be and what is or what has been can be accessed. And so when we activate our power level, when we become like a computer that instead of having 1 bar on your phone, you have 4 bars or 5 bars, and your Wi-Fi, your internet, your cell connection goes all the way up, that's the same thing. And your transceiver of light going in and light going out of your body can connect to all the powers and all the feeling, and it's knowledge at that point. And it's also the ability to rearrange the cells of your body and communicate in ways that we think we need medicines to do now, or we need surgery or something like that. You have a holographic form, like light in the air in a structured arrangement. That's how your body grows, because it's according to the structure. When the energy changes, then the body changes. If you change the light information, your body will naturally grow back to the way it should be. That is guided and altered by our mind and our spirit. It's scalar technology, the same as scalar technology with the device. So these darker groups use technology to force themselves to see everything and know everything, be all powerful. The organic version is simply connecting to one another and to the environment and to the natural capacity, which is through compassion of connecting to yourself and listening to what you feel and what you are and what you are physically, as well as what you are spiritually, which is not a physical thing. It's a knowing. It's a sense of feeling beyond the body. And when we naturally go with that, there's more power there than anything else in the universe, because that's what creates the universe. Consciousness and feeling, spirit, not a device or a systematic program. But the world that we're in, the way events occur, and the information that comes to tell people in this big mind that they don't know exists, how to act and how to believe and how to think, is a computer. That's what runs this society. But the actual reality is ran by spirit and pure intelligence, which we all have access to. And so increasing intelligence, feeling, natural healing capabilities. And so what you would feel is it's often it's the border of trauma and what you could call enlightenment, but that is another corrupted term. It's where you see memories. It's the merging of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And everything that you don't want to know or is very, very powerful and intellectual and your conscious mind doesn't need to use right now, because you don't need to use that information. It's kept up in your unconscious mind. It's within you. It's within that field. When the two are combined and you're at your consciousness, your personality is shown the truth because it's just the time that we can't hide from the truth anymore with what's going on, with how smart we get, with how much stuff is being shown in public. It can't be hidden. It has to come out. You have to see it. It's just what happens. You eventually dream it and you see it, and then it's there in your conscious mind. When the two combine and you start seeing things that have been happening for so long and are outside of our ability to know because people don't tell us, at first we see what we don't want to see because it's all of our fears. And we have to get over all of our fears. People have visions, nightmares, things that they've done that they're not happy with, where there's disharmony that bubbles to the surface and they see it in their conscious mind. And they know it personally, even if they forgot about it years ago. So that happens, and that is a release of trauma that occurs. After we get the darkest part of that out, which is very, very, it's the majority of the experience, honestly, then there's that unveiling of, like high power and knowing, and it's like there's multiple realities, and it's primarily mental. That there's just so much here that we're not seeing because we're not connected to our DNA, and our brain is connected to media and this technology that is making us dumb, and apparently there's stuff in the sky that is beaming people like a laser beam that makes everybody not know what's going on. It literally wipes people's memory, and it's related to blank slate technology and what people call the soul trap. And so as well as that's us trauma being reduced, that technology is also breaking down because when people naturally and honestly wake up, it can't stop. It would have to break everything to make it stop. So it can't stop it, and that means that technology is also breaking down, which is like it's like an electromagnetic a shield that beams people and stops their memory once they get a certain frequency. Once they get smart and happy enough, it basically attacks them. And but it's the beast. It's what they call the beast system. And it's a computer. It's an interdimensional computer. But when people truly unveil what's real, it has no power in comparison because people are if people aren't here, the whole universe disappears. It's only here because we're here. And so people have to know that, though. But in knowing that, imagine the house is on fire and you didn't know you're a firefighter. You're a fireman. You know how to put the fire out. Well, people forgot. It's going to be very scary at first. But that's where the power comes through, and as well where we weren't being honest with ourselves, we see that, and people are going to feel a very strange way, a very scary way, but it's going to strengthen everything, and it goes on, but basically intelligence will be challenged, and people will have to decide whether they want that free will or to remain in free will, or whether they will forget more so again. But after that, it won't happen ever again because that system will be broken, and people will remember forever. And apparently, it's written about in ancient texts that eventually that is what defeats death. That death dies after all of this is at the highest level. And the final enemy, it's written in the Bible in ancient texts, although the Bible is rewritten, but ancient texts talk about it, and they rewrote it because there's information in there that touches on all of this. It's multidimensionality. And that the last enemy is death. And that the weird thing is, the people who apparently created this, they told me they invented death. That they found out the system's like a computer. Everybody lived in a happy land, if you will, and they coded into the computer with a team of magicians the ability to die and have disease, and they gave themselves immortality, and they made everybody else die and get sick and have disease, and they invented money and religion and lies and all these things. And I still don't know how I feel about that, but that's what it is. But the main idea is that all that is ending when all of this begins to complete itself. They also call it the end of days, the end of time. And this has also happened 6 times before, and it cannot happen any more than that because there's no more information to mess up. We already know. So if we let it happen again, we're lying to ourselves. But all that is can't lie to itself. All it does is be honest. What else would it do? It's all that is. And so we're reaching all that is at this time for our species, for our civilization, for our timeline. And there's teams that manage this and help people. And there's mean people that try and make it as worse as possible because I guess they like that. And there's other things about how they live off of that suffering, but that's not really part of this aspect of the conversation. Excuse me.
Okay.
Your audio is breaking up.
Your life passage
I can only hear your life. What was the other word?
juice. You are
Life juice?
there.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's got a lot of antioxidants and some herbs in there, which I've been getting into again. Yeah, this is part of what I feel I messed up on because I bought liquid vitamins, which is B12, which is something you can get from protein, and I used to take this and inject it into a muscle, which is you see the athletes doing it, people who race in the biking, people who want to lose weight, or people who are very, very sick and they have pernicious anemia where they don't have enough protein or vitamin and they're very frail and sick, and it boosts everything up. And the government made it illegal to get a vitamin. Other countries you can't get it here. And so all going throughout that, I was like, it's old, it's in the past, I don't need to do that anymore. And because I did that, I set myself back with the phone and with the other events because what I was being told is that it's all a waste of time. Even food, that people won't need to eat food in the same way that they do now. That the air will have a charge that nourishes the cells through the mind. And I didn't believe it, but I'm starting to feel more in line with that because I can fast very easily now and not have to eat for days at a time. And every time I do that, I keep getting healthier. I keep getting stronger, which is, opposite of what you would think a lot of times. And they were specifically saying you're not going to need the vitamins, you're not going to need certain little tricks you would do with the super healing stuff, herbs and such, fine, but all the potent, basically making super healing medicines is not needed, and that the mind will begin to take care of it all because the spirit's possible. And I feel because my spirit was telling me you don't need to do this, and I did it anyway, and now I'm like stuck in all these problems. I even messaged, I was like, you can cancel, please cancel, don't send that, I don't want it anymore, just keep it. I don't know if I'll probably still end up getting it, but yeah, and it's all connected. It's continually telling me what to do, what the path is, not what to do, but that it's what's going to happen. And if I ignore it, then it happens, and I'm in trouble. Not in trouble. It's just like I could have avoided it. And if I listen to the intuition, it continually gets better and better and better, and and better in the sense that I can speak more happily to people and deliver what I feel like is something helpful or assist in the mental liberation instead of worrying about my own problems and getting stuck worrying about things that it didn't make a difference anyway. It's just I'm trying to put icing on the cake, and I don't even need it. I don't even need the cake. I can just use my mind, which it's hard to accept, but I'm getting there slowly, and I think a lot of other people are as well.
Well, you have wrote a lot, all these things. I have to read and to listen to your video, learn about your point. Very. But what kind of we shouldn't eat?
You said what kind of food we shouldn't eat?
What
Well,
meat?
I think you said at first animals or meat. The main thing is pork, and a lot of people don't like that. But it's a joke. A lot of the Christians eat pork for Christ. Jesus, whoever he was, whether he's a character or a metaphor or a person or a grouping of people, said don't eat that. Don't do that. And the people do it, and it's like it's helpful. So, but the point with that is that there are genetic issues with compatibility where there's basically, they absorb a lot of poisons. I've worked on a farm, and pigs don't actually like to be in poop and mud. They like to be in fields and dry dirt and taking baths in the dust. But they will live in poop if people just leave them there because they poop so much. And they actually, but the thing is, they won't get sick. They'll absorb it all and get sweat it out and squeeze it out of their body and poop it out. It's strange, but that's how they live. They're very strong for that. But it means if we eat that meat, which is very high fat, and the fat is where toxins are stored in your body, in my body, it's in the fat, and when we burn fat off, it gets out. So we're absorbing those toxins. And it's one of the highest sources of those toxins for the human race. If you're going to eat food, unless you eat something, not food-like. And so there's that mainly, and then certain other animals, just certain types of animals that that chew the cud and with the cloven hoof, and with the pigs and horses and goat and things like that. But mainly, I think what it is that it's the dairy and the animal products are not for our digestive tract. And there's a video with William Schnobin. I just saw his video, and of course I've been on a spree of mispronouncing people's names that I reference.
Why I think. No.
What's that?
I translate the post you have with.
Yeah, there's some people, or there's some information I've put on that kind of specifically. I talk about so much that it's all over the place and it's not as organized, but the guy is Dr. William Schnobelin, and I believe he came out as an secret Illuminati member a while ago, years and years and years ago, and told people like, hey, this is going on, you might want to know about it. And now he just talks about Scripture and things like that, and he talks about it and relates it to Scripture, but he says that's what's there for those who want to argue about Scripture. But then he says, just like everyone who researches that you have molars and your jaw moves like this, where it goes side to side and it masticates, and a carnivore just goes like that, and it will go forward and pull back. They don't chew, they just swallow. And so we don't have that, and our intestines are very long, 6 to 9 times, or 6 to 20 times, I think it is, or 12 to 20 or something like that, and longer than our stomach is. And so an animal is only, I think, 3 to 9 or something like that, meaning it's not very long. And so food passes through and doesn't rot because they're mainly eating other animals. Whereas all the animals who have big molars and jaws that move around like that, like a horse or something, they have very long intestines, and it's so that it can absorb complex nutrients from greens and vegetables and things like that. And so, in short, it's obvious that we're either designed to eat meat and vegetables, and depending even on the way that works, mainly vegetables with a little meat, or that we can simply eat meat because we're very strong and very well designed, but that we're supposed to eat not animal products if we can, if we have the opportunity. Because he also brings up what is called the flood, which is an actual event. It's basically a holographic insert that was influenced across all the timelines, and whenever you have events that influence every parallel reality, there are events that are written in history, and everyone knows about it at some point in time, because it's an event that changes everything, and our subconscious, which is connected to the DNA, knows about the event, because it's not that you had a flat tire or you ate a banana at a certain time in a certain place. It's that everyone experienced that event because it put an impact in the memory of every living being on the planet. And there are 5 events like this, I believe, that were world traumas that occurred in ancient history that changed the way we are existing now. They have to do with the Nephilim giants, the flood, the wiping of memory, or the fall of man out of a certain area that they call Eden, and the creation of different species, basically an interspecies rape from another being or another kind of being onto humanity. And the interesting thing is that is a kind of secret, how that opened up a time loop where it has to keep happening until we get out of this whole system, until we stop feeding into the problems that enabled it to happen in the first place. Because what we do now, it leads back to what happened back then. We're in this, how it happens, I'll let people decide, or maybe ask me another time, because it's a kind of a secret and it's very strange, and it's also helpful to learn how it works anyway, because then we know how the universe works. And you have to know how the universe works because you have to know how to navigate it, and it's very sci-fi or science fiction like, because it's time travel with your mind that is just natural. Everything is constantly in these cycles of time, and the goal is to create anew without repeating what we've done. And that's the main problem here, is that we're continually repeating what we've been doing, that we're not actually in time, we're in a script that has been written through these events, and it's because these events traumatized us and altered DNA by hurting us in certain ways, and it started a war between factions of humanity. And But and so I think that's the basic idea behind the events, the flood, and what happened, and how he reminds us that at one point, according to Scripture, it was said, okay, you can eat an animal if there's a flood, or because of the flood, because everything on at least around certain people or most people was gone at that point in time. And a lot of reference to the Bible is that it was about certain groups, certain bloodlines, certain factions of humanity. And at that time, where we thought that was all that was happening, there was a people over there was a civilization over there was people over there across the mountain. But these events happened and influenced everything, either then or eventually. But that's about the food. The rest is basically low energy food that's very cooked, very processed, packaged, wheat, very high sugar, additives and colors, basically candy and snack and junk foods, the stuff everybody grows up thinking like, this is amazing. We get to eat candy that tastes so good, and chips and Doritos and stuff like that taste so good, and it really hurts the system because it's full of chemicals, especially now. And when we go back to a diet or a food intake, when we eat stuff that comes from the ground, we're getting the highest amount of energy that comes from the sun, which is sorting energy and giving it to the planet. And you can see the sun, like the soul, exists in all the possible parallel realities. It never changes. A car might be this way over here. A house might be over there. Then that goes and there's a city there. There might be ice over there in one reality. The sun is the same in all of them. And so in the same sense, your soul is the same in all of them, experiencing everything as one. It's the conscious mind that's different throughout them and makes different experiences and different realities. It's like a house of cards fanning out and getting very complex, but it all leads back up to one at the top. And so it's just high energy. And as well, we don't need to eat a lot. We fasting for a day or two at a time and cleaning the system out and just eating small, potent meals instead of a bunch of junk food all throughout the day.
Wow. Thanks for your explanation. I don't know what to talk with you. I have to listen again because sometimes I don't understand everything you say because you are so fast.
Sorry.
No, but it's okay. But I understand what you are talking about. And this question about here in Brazil, we have a fight because some people say that the earth we have a flat earth, and and other people say it's possible that the earth is rounded, and I don't know. I understand the flat earth symbolically because we are in a simulation. I don't know if I am right, but I haven't seen anything about this. I can't swear about the shape of the earth,
The main idea is that what we see from the eyes as a three-dimensional, solid, and expanse reality is closer to a simulation running on a system that is actually based on information. And we see events and people and things and space, but in reality, there is no space and there is no time. There's only consciousness and information. And it's like a very advanced interdimensional computer system that creates a universe to run a video game or to run a TV show. That doesn't make a TV screen, it makes what we call the universe. But in that sense, what's actually playing is not in the TV, it's in a stream of information that's flowing into the TV, into the universe. And if you could see what it is, you'll see a two-dimensional stream of information, and it's connected to a disk system, which is connected to another video that I have not released yet because someone else began to contact me about this information, and it's information I was shown, but I basically like to wait until I get true confirmation that that's the time to show it. Maybe now is that basically on a higher layer, if you were to go to all the realities and combine them and see what's actually happening, that's everything's different in multiple realities, and you're different every day based on conscious mind. So to see the you that exists on the soul that's always the same, you have to see every day and see how things change and understand who you really are by seeing what never changes and is always the same. But we don't, it's like being on a roller coaster where we don't see what's happening. We see in front of us if there's a roller coaster and there's a big loop on the ride, the amusement park. We see it. When we're in it, we don't see it. We just see the fact that we're going through it. So time is like that, where we don't know where we've come from in a sense because it's behind us, and we can see far ahead, but we can't really see immediately around us of how we're changing in life, unless you take the time to stop and look, and which a lot of people don't do. And so the realities are like that. And if you could see what's actually happening, what we think is us changing things and making choices, we would see patterns where something happens at a specific time, a frequency of an amount of events, and we would see that it's not us doing something when we want to or how we want to. We would see it's like a musical song where the sounds go up and they go down and they go, and that's all that's happening. And we're not doing it. We're riding the wave of some system, some event of life that's played out in this pattern. And so when you look at the space and energy and time, you end up with what is kind of like this is the illusion system. It's a toroid where it's actually two toroids where they're like donuts that cycle energy through and keep recreating the moment. And it's everywhere you have a location in space, it's actually comprised of a closed unit of a toroid, from a body to a person to time, a moment to time and a life altogether, to the entire system. And what we experience as the now moment is in the exact center of that moment where the information goes from around, and I believe it goes up and then down. And it goes, and then it hits from like an umbrella, or it's spread out like this. It comes together and it spirals and goes into one point, and it goes into the smallest point, and it's so small that if you were to look at it with numbers and mathematics or geometry, shapes and squares and I can't think of the other shapes, polygons. If you were to look at it through that, it would technically mean that it gets so small that it goes into itself and it disappears into a portal. And so the point is that when we go into that point, that's the creation of what we call right now, and the collection of the now across all the people is a infinitely flat plane. Basically, the width of everything goes into a point that's so tiny it doesn't exist. And when we're all experiencing a collective reality, it creates a disk of those points that is so thin it doesn't exist. It doesn't have a width. It just has a plane. And so what it means is that the now moment, as soon as you say now, it's in the past. There is really no way to trap it because it's not real. It's a holographic expansion of information, and it's changing through a gradient, or kind of like a comb, how it goes from bigger comb bristles to bigger comb lines to littler lines for when you brush your thinner hair. That's what's happening. And the information collects into that, and the result of the amount of when it becomes now and then the next now, it's mathematically, it doesn't exist. It's so small that we can't see it. You couldn't find it. You couldn't make a device that exactly, when two pieces touch and something happens, that exactly captures the moment. Because if you say at 8:30 p.m. right now it happens, well, another computer could say, well, it actually was at 8:29 and 59 seconds. And another computer would say that actually it was at 59 seconds and 2 milliseconds, nanoseconds. Millisecond. And then another computer would say 1 billion trillion nanoseconds until you get to Planck time. And we think it stops, but it continues to go because it's a cascade and there's no actual end to it. But because there's no end, that means there's no beginning. Ultimately, when you have a cycle of no end, no beginning, it means it's a kind of program that what we experience now is being played out, and we're experiencing it only in our mind. And it doesn't actually exist out here.
Me touching that doesn't exist out here. It's only in my mind. And we're all here doing that, so we're in each other's dreams. And it's because there's a system that makes everyone synchronized so that we are at the same time or playing the same game, like we're in an online game. And if it wasn't going at the same time on my computer or my mind, in your mind, then you could sneeze and a day later I would hear it, and that wouldn't make any sense. So there's a system that makes everything work all at once, and we experience it natural. You can change that system by altering the energetic field and create a time bubble and go to the past or the future or alter it. In the time that it takes you to sneeze, I could read a whole book if I have a field set up that changes time. And what it does is it makes that overall toroid, it makes one right here with energy. And the other idea is that what you experience as your time is your mind making one of those fields, an illusion, a game. It's a game. It's literally like an illusion. And your mind is making one for your body. And the point is to find the true reality, flat, round, expanse, information, virtual data on a disk or in numbers like a computer. And the true reality is beyond what the mind, the brain and the eyes see. It's in the feeling because it's your eyes take time, like dominoes, buttons are pressed and things happen, and then you see something. So did it happen when it happened there or when you saw it happening? There's two different times there. It's not exact. It's a small difference, but technically there's a difference there. And if there is any difference, it's as big as you want it to be or as small as you want it to be. When you get to the spirit that sees beyond the body, that difference is so vast that in between the time it takes you to see something and that event actually happening, an entire universe could play out. It's what the scientists say when you look at the stars and they're so far away that when you see the light from the stars, that light was actually in the other part of history and it's not here anymore. This conversation is in the ancient past according to your spirit, which is at the speed of light and beyond. And we don't know that until we see what's actually happening by the spirit. And so the conscious mind, the ego, is infinitely in this delay, this after effect, this echo of reality. And that echo is what is being played in this kind of projection system that requires a brain and a conscious mind and a sensory system to see. It's our avatar, our video game player. The spirit doesn't require that. And to the spirit, everything that has ever happened and everything that will ever be is already known. And so what we have now is like a book, a storybook we're reading through page by page. But when we turn the page, it didn't happen. It already happened. We're just experiencing it one at a time. And so time is like that, and space is also like that when you look at it overall. And it gets very complicated because when we get outside of that toroid, that flat disk of consciousness, that is at a specific relativity. It's an abstraction. It's not an actual disk. It's a way of describing the information. It's not actual. When you get out of that, you get into different universes, basically different timelines. So going into space, there's no space. There's other realities. And so you could say then it's not a ball and there's stuff out there. There's nothing out there. It's all right here. Because everything in existence is kept within the reality we're creating and tapped into with our collective mind. And when you leave that collective mind, you enter into a larger system, which is not one place and then another. It's an interdimensional way, meaning you don't find an object out there. You find a different reality, a different time, a different world of information, which is also, it's a trick because it's the same as saying, well, you go out there and you get a different planet. You get a different civilization. It's technically the same thing. It's just one way of interpreting it as a ball and planets and one way of interpreting it as a disk of information and different computer system or a different information disk. The other aspect is that we can't leave this disk if we see through the eyes. The eyes stay here. They're part of the game. It's like a basketball video game where the person stays to play basketball, and then they go play a driving game with the guy that's wearing the basketball uniform with the basketball in his hand. You don't do that. You get into a different video game when you play a different game. Okay, you switch, the basketball player doesn't go to the race car track. So we're in a human reality. To leave this reality, we would become non-human or bigger than human. And so the idea is that it's spiritual. It's not other things and other, rocky borrows, although you could see it as that. But that's just the illusion. It's just the dream. It's just the video game. What's actually happening is pure information and pure spirit. And to spirit, everything happened already. It's already done because our minds are so slow and the spirit is instant. And the difference between instant and kind of slow or so slow is the same. A snail and a jaguar, both slow to the spirit. They're both slow. And so what that means is our mind is in the past. Our brain, when we're in body consciousness, it can't see the truth the way the spirit sees it. And so what we see here is like a video game, a projection, or a hologram, and all those, the way that is laid out, the way that fits together, it's like it's a holographic simulation in the same sense. But instead of a computer, it's a spiritual simulation that we're dreaming into reality using a force of a cosmic intelligence that we begin as and then go back to. And by staying in compassion, or at least the truth, you go back to it. When people lie and create disharmony, they don't go back to it. They stay here and they get stuck in the game. Imagine you play a shooting game, which isn't good because that's a real reality. When people play the games and they shoot each other, it's almost the same as actually doing it to your mind, to your unconscious mind, to your spirit. And so the point is, if people come to, or somebody likes that game so much, they're not going to like playing the game where people just talk and meet and build a civilization in another video game. They won't be able to do that. They'll want to go back to the other game because they get a high from it. And so the people who get addicted to this version of it in the sense that is only in ego, meaning it's only in this reality, it's only in this sensory system, it's only in this organ system, or their genitals, or their stomach, or their eyes, whatever it is, their brain with drugs, it means they get stuck in one reality, and at the beginning and the end, we are in all realities, and we're just having fun dreaming. And so it fights the self, and it tricks them, and it's all a metaphor, but you can see it either way, that it's actually flat, and it's a shield that you can't leave, or that it's a surface that if you leave, you get into other dimensions instead of other places like that, which you could call planets. But to say it's one or the other is the only way to say it's not right, to not be right, because it's your mind making it, and the spirit knows so much more than the mind that we can only say that this isn't the one reality, this is just one of many realities, and the one reality wouldn't look like what we think it does now.
Okay. Aug, Marcia from Remix Radio asking you if you can talk with the radio, the people of the radio, 28th, July 28th, Friday, next Friday.
Right. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I think, what is there now in your city? 8:46 p.m.? No. What time is it?
Right now?
Yeah.
Right now? 8:46 p.m.
8:46. Just a minute. Well, she's going to answer, but I think it's going to be 7 p.m. to you. Okay, in Hangouts. We have to have your Gmail.
Okay, I will type it in the area.
Okay. And I'm going, yeah, 1 p.m. to you, and it's going to last one and a half hour.
Okay.
Well, it's a pleasure to you. I know you so long because your videos and the posts. Have you seen my page with your posts in Portuguese?
Yeah, I see. Thank you. There are a few people doing this, and that's all I can say. Thank you.
Did you like the music
Which one?
in your page by Vangelis?
I'm not sure. I don't know which one you're talking about. You'll have to message me and point it out.
Yeah, and so I am great. I thank you so much for this meeting and for your time. And it's very interesting. You talk with a really high level, and it's it's very interesting. The things you always have a site, philosophical site, and beyond the things like we are worried about normally in every day, and it's very good because we go beyond this too when you are talking about. It's very good to know. And I'm going to confirm. I don't know. I'm losing all my English right now. Marcia from Remix will tell me the schedule if it's 7 p.m. to you, okay? And next Friday, but it's okay.
Yeah.
We can we can meet in this hour. You are going to meet with Marcelo and Caio. They are going to be in the
Okay.
on Friday. And on Saturday, there is another interview with us in Brazil.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm going to be there in this hangout, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
And, come to Brazil, come to visit us with Felicia. Felicia says that she is going to come here.
Oh yeah. Yep.
We're invited.
I could see her traveling around everywhere and seeing that. Oh, and then the site, right? You see, I have a site. Okay, so that's where we really are. That's the non-hologram. This is the hologram. Where you're in your mind and you're in a location. That's reality. And we think it's backwards. No, you're here and you make up in your mind, and that's just what you made up. What we make up is where we're actually at. It's weird. It's like we're diving into here to put ourselves back into the mind, into the other world. That's the real world. And that's why those who do that the most, they're actually unlocking what's there to be seen and found. And you don't have to read a book, although it helps. You don't have to look at someone else. It's already here because you make it. You know, and that's who we are. We're in there. And, so on. So many words.
So many words. It's very good. It's very good to listen to you. Thank you a lot. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore. I think I have to think about all of this because people here we are going to. It will be very good to listen to you in your point of view because we are going to get higher ideas about the world and it's will be very.
I appreciate it, and I'm thankful.
Okay, I'm thankful Peter. Okay. And I hope we can talk. We're going to talk this week,
Yeah.
Friday, and people in Brazil will have the opportunity to be with you. It's very interesting. It's going to be very different. All we do here is it's kind of different of this, and we are going to have a different side from the things that are happening. And okay, it's that's it.
Yep. I'd say one more thing is that you could say a secret. Also, other realities you want to have that you're aware of. The person who's all over the ball or the disc, whatever, the person who talks to everyone, who puts their mind in everyone else's lives, has more power. And the one who doesn't mean has power, but they can't do that for anything other than being mean. The one who does it and is enjoyment and trying to give joy to others, they can do that for anything, and they can go anywhere with it. And so it's an aspect of a secret, and that's where the people with a lot of money travel everywhere and put their stamps and their symbols and their stuff everywhere. But with this day and age, technology, all you can write a book or you can talk on the internet, and if you want to speak to the people, you can speak to the people. And so the power is coming back, and that has to do with the change where what happens if everyone has the highest level of technology and internet and everyone knows everyone. We see what's really going on, and everything changes. So thank you.
Okay. Hugs for you. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you again. Thank you. Bye.